Yeah, let's see. Maybe we're live now. Let's see.
Are we live?
I don't know. Yeah, I think we are live. Let's see. Yeah, we are live. Now let me pass this link for people because yeah, we need a new link now.
Gotcha.
Foi mal aí, galera. Deu algum problema aqui na internet. Não sei o que aconteceu, mas estamos ao vivo de novo. So, keep speaking. What are you saying, man? Sorry. Keep going.
All right. So you guys have an idea, a general idea of what the Cubans have been doing in Venezuela over the last few years. So that's the story of how I got involved with the Cuban libertarians and then the Venezuelan libertarians. Well, after working for a few months with the Venezuelan libertarians, I just became exposed to other groups and other political parties in the opposition. So I started working with more people and working with more people and just being an advisor to more people so that their activism could be a lot more effective. Remember, this was all before Juan Guaido. Everything was really up in the air as to whether that regime, the communist regime in Venezuela, was going to last or not. So I just kept helping in the Venezuelan opposition, and little by little, I just got more and more involved in the Venezuelan opposition, to the point where by the beginning of 2019, I'm starting to have private phone calls with members of the Venezuelan parliament. Multiple members of the Venezuelan parliament, and they wanted to hear what I had to say. Now, you mentioned that I have a military background. That is true. I served in the California State Guard for 9 years. What is the State Guard? It is our state's militia. It is the government militia. So we have the regular Army, and then also the other forces, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps. But we also have the reserve branches. Reserve is part-time soldier, but you belong to the federal government. Then there's the National Guard. The National Guard is the state militia, so the governor is the commander, but during times of war, the president can call up the National Guard, and then they become part of the army. That's what happens when I was joining the National, especially in California. The California National Guard was being deployed all over the goddamn place. So, for example, it was Iraq, it was Afghanistan, and Kosovo. Yeah, so the 40th Infantry Division, which is the California soldiers, they were in 3 different countries when I was trying to enlist. So because of so many of the National Guard soldiers being gone, they activated the other part of the militia. So California has a backup militia for when the main militia gets deployed. That is how militaristic the United States is, all right? We have regular soldiers, and then we have part-time soldiers, and then we have backup part-time soldiers. So I joined the state militia, and I served in that capacity for 9 years. During the first half, I worked administrative, so I was inside a headquarters office. During the second half, because we were writing these articles talking about, oh, the National Guard is so great, like the people are so much better off with the National Guard in their neighborhood. Oh my gosh, like, did you guys go to the last 4th of July parade that was on the military base? It was so great. Like, yeah, man, the military is the best thing that ever happened in California. So I was writing crap like that. And then during the second half of my time as a soldier, I started working as private military contractor because there was this company that was training soldiers in the deserts of the United States. They were deploying them for Afghanistan, and they need people who are amputees to get like made up in blood and gore and be wounded soldiers. And this was to train the combat medic. So I happen to be an amputee, and that's not from a war injury. That was a birth defect. I was born missing my right arm, but when I enlisted in the State Guard at the age of 18, because California was so desperate for boots on the ground, I got brought in on a waiver. But this was the ability to get a little bit closer to the regular army, the full-time army. So I was still a civilian, but I was working in the field with the real training stuff. So yeah, they would put makeup on me to make it look like I got shot up or like I got burned in an explosion.
Right.
And then on my half arm, my stump, and then paint it, the color of flesh, and then like put a bunch of like fake blood on it to make it look like I got my arm blown off. And then there was even like a system of tubes with a pump in one of my pockets that was hidden. That if I put pressure on it in a certain way, fake arterial blood would come squirting out. So
Nice.
this was to be like as realistic training for the combat medics as possible. I did that type of work for about 3 years, and then one of the companies that I had worked for a little while gave me the thing. So those particular options, I had to Arabic AK-47, and I was working with a
Let's see. Yeah, I'm having some internet issues here.
I understand.
Yeah, normally I would never have issues with internet, but I need a fucking 20-meter DSL cable to solve this. Wait a
So
second.
we're
Yeah. I don't know. Like everything
wait up.
was.
Let me go to the bathroom.
Okay, go. No problem. You can go. Yeah.
Let me.
Minuto aí, já volto. Realmente deu problema aqui na internet. Okay, yeah, keep going, man. Sorry for the technical problems. We are still learning. This is like my first official program, right? My live program. So, yeah, keep going.
I'll just say action when we're live again.
Yeah, action.
Okay. So you guys now have a little bit of an idea of my military background. I eventually walked away from that world in 2017. Ironically, I got out of the State Guard and then I stopped working as a contractor. Everything changed. January 2019, the National Assembly, which at that time was controlled by the opposition in Venezuela, and that was the democratically elected parliament of Venezuela. The opposition parties won in 2015, and they did not just win, they creamed the communists. The opposition got almost 70% of the seats, 70% of the seats in the parliament. So the communists got creamed in 2015. In order to basically ignore the results of the election, and this is how democratic Chavismo really is. Chavismo will ignore the results of an election they lose. So first, in the last days of when the Chavistas had the National Assembly, they added a bunch of people to the Venezuelan Supreme Court, and they did not do the required 2 discussions. there's like a laundry list of things that you have to do in the Venezuelan parliament before any act of parliament or any kind of law becomes official. The Chavistas did not do all the things that they were supposed to do. So the whole reason to grow the court was to give the court a Chavista majority. Their last couple of days illegal, but obviously the court, the new Chavista court, decided that it was not illegal. Well, of course, the communists are going to decide that what the communists are doing is not illegal. That was 2016.
Sure.
Then in 2017, under the guidance of the Cubans, the Venezuelan communists made a whole other parliament called the Constituent Assembly. Now, the Constituent Assembly's job is to write a new constitution. That is the only reason a constituent is supposed to exist in that country, to write a constitution.
Right.
Maduro's people created a Constituent Assembly to act as an alternate parliament. They never wrote a Venezuelan constitution. The 4 years that this fake communist parliament has existed, they have never written one sentence of a new constitution. They just acted like another parliament so that the regime could ignore the opposition parliament. That was 2017.
Yeah, well,
then
we saw
2019 happened. 2019 happened. January 2019, Maduro's term as president legally expired. There's a lot of evidence to show that he won in 2013 by fraud, but the opposition candidate, Enrique Capriles, at the very end, he basically gave up. And he said, we'll get him next time, you guys, but for the good of the country, I don't want to create more trouble. So they basically gave up that ground to the communists in 2013. But just assuming that Maduro's first election was legal, then his term legally ended in January of 2019. So that was the month when the National Assembly elected Juan Guaido as the interim president, or the temporary president of Venezuela. So a lot of people, even in English language media, they like to say that Juan Guaido proclaimed himself as the president of Venezuela. That is not true. Juan Guaido did not proclaim anything. The Venezuelan Constitution, under Article 233, says if there is no duly or legally elected president, if there was no real or legal presidential election, then the parliament will elect a temporary president, and his job will be to make elections happen. So they elected Juan Guaido constitutionally. That month, what else happened that month? The Venezuelan Indians, the Pemons specifically, so there are Pemons in Brazil and there are Pemons in Venezuela. And that's because 300-400 years ago, the Spanish and the Portuguese, that's just where they drew the line. They drew the line for Brazil, and then the Virreinato, the viceroyalty of Spain, they just drew a line right in the middle of the Indians. So on the Venezuelan side, back in December of 2018, the Indians started a rebellion, like a full rebellion against the Maduro regime. I'm talking about like they just kicked a bunch of
nobody
out
knows
of their reservation.
Yeah, nobody knows this in Brazil.
And now the Venezuelan people are disarmed because Hugo Chavez's government disarmed the people back in 2012. First they passed a law, but then they actually sent the police and the military to every house to get the guns. So obviously all the people who obeyed the law gave up their guns. The only people who kept guns were the criminals. Big surprise. But the Venezuelan people are unarmed, so these Indians, when they went into a rebellion, and the reason that they went into a rebellion is because the month before the rebellion started, some Venezuelan soldiers from military counterintelligence, so these people are the communists, because there's a lot of Venezuelan soldiers who are not loyal to communism. Military counterintelligence, this is basically like an extension of the Cuban intelligence.
Right.
The Cubans literally control Venezuelan military intelligence. So military counterintelligence went onto the reservation. Allegedly, they were looking for drug traffickers, and then they ended up shooting some Indian fishermen, and they died. So a couple weeks later, the Indians they went on this full rebellion on the Venezuelan side. they kicked the Chavistas like off of reservation land. They put up a banner saying the Pemon nation recognizes Juan Guaido. They have a territorial guard, so it's kind of like a police, militia, and like a national park ranger all at the same time. And they have a military uniform, but they're unarmed. But the whole Pemon territorial guard switched sides, so they deserted from the communists. And then the Pemons, like, they literally barricaded the highways onto their reservation, and like every able-bodied man in that tribe grabbed a bow and arrow. So literally, like, the Indians did a full rebellion with bows and arrows, okay? There's some other things happening in January 2019. In January 2019, I am working on putting together a solution for Venezuela. So,
Yeah,
right,
that's why I'm gonna ask. Is there a solution for the Venezuelan crisis, for that dictatorship? Because for me, it's really hard to see a solution in the next 10 to 20 years, because they're being helped by Russia, they're being helped by China, right? They're being helped by Iran. So they have oil, they have money, they have guns, they have missiles, they have everything they need to sustain the dictatorship. And the country is a fucking big jungle, so it's really hard to hold territory. What do you think? Is there a solution for the Venezuela dictatorship?
Yes, I do believe there's absolutely a solution, and it depends on mass popular uprising. They have come really close before, where like the whole country has just risen up against Chavismo. Two problems going on. Number one, the people don't have guns, so when the police or the soldiers or the communist paramilitaries show up, they just start shooting people. And remember, a lot of the soldiers are actually